Welcome back to Making Video Your Business. Today I'm joined by my friend Simon Gates from Opening Gates. Simon, thanks for coming.
Thank you very much for having me.
So Simon, just give us a little bit of background about you and what is Opening the Gates.
Background about me. I am one of the very few people who always wanted to be an estate agent rather than falling into it.
Unusual animal.
Yeah, I am an unusual animal, definitely. Was an agent from 2007 till the start of 2020. Sam Hunter from Home Search rang me one day and went, "G'day, mate, do you want a job?" I said yes. I quit estate agency, was at Home Search for 3 years, and during that time, used a lot of kind of key person of influence vibes from Daniel Priestley, used a lot of video on LinkedIn particularly, grew a bit of an audience and a following, which meant I could quit that job and start my own business. So in the last 2 years, I've worked with 200 different estate agents across the UK with Opening the Gates. And it's basically, I work with estate agents who have a growth mindset, they're data orientated and they're tech enabled. And I basically help them grow their business.
I mean, great summary. One of the bits that I liked most about that was you used video content to leverage into a new job.
Yeah. And do you know what on that, right? I was thinking about this when I was driving up here today, that in March 2020, when I had joined Home Search and we're all working from home in that weird time of COVID.
Yeah.
And the guy who was doing our social media at Home Search is like, "Right, I just need you to record a video about transitioning from estate agency to working from home." I remember just like putting my phone on the desk and hitting record, and I was so rigid. And I was like, this is so like weird and awkward. Like, I'm not used to this. And he's like, "Just chill out, relax." I was like, I just can't help it. Like, I'm trying to get everything perfect.
Yeah.
And then just every single video that went by, you just got more and more confident. And then when you start hearing people go, "I've seen you online," and it just clicked for me. I was like, this stuff is powerful. Like video, that whole, is it parasocial, where people think they know you without even meeting you.
Yeah.
And then once the world opened up and started going to industry events and people are like, "Oh, hey Simon, how are you doing?" And I'm like, I don't even know who this person is.
Do you find that as weird as I do?
Yeah, it's so
I mean, it's lovely.
It's amazing, and I'll never tire from it. I was at the Women in Estate Agency conference recently, as were you, and people coming up to me and going, "Oh, I listened to your podcast," and I'm like, "Oh, hi, who are you? I've not met you before," and it's absolutely amazing.
I listened to your podcast, which is called What's the podcast called?
Opening the Gates to More Listings. I don't know why I think about that.
Opening the Gates to More Listings. I listened to your podcast with Andrew Cooney, who's a client of ours, a friend of ours. And I felt like I owed you a seat on the podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd already invited you, to be fair, but I felt like I owed you a seat because you were so kind about us, and I appreciate that. Why do you think videos become so powerful for agency? Why do you think people are now thinking, actually, do you know what? Despite the fear, like, I think this has got to be a go for our business.
So, might be a weird answer, but how I like think about it is that when maybe estate agents who are behind the times who don't get it, I try and explain Gogglebox to them. And if you think about Gogglebox, that is weird, but actually you're watching people watch TV. And if I look back to like when I was younger, and I remember a show on MTV called Hogan Knows Best, where it'd follow Hulk Hogan and his family round.
No, but was it like early? It's like early Hasselhoff type Fly on the Wall documentary.
Yeah,
early Kardashians, sort of Big Brother style,
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you just think, well, people love talking about the property market in this country, so why are estate agents not doing more video and film talking about the property market and behind the scenes? Again, over the years, the amount of times people say, "Oh, you must have some crazy stories from being in people's houses." Why not shed a light on what actually happens?
I think that's a really important point. I think some of our personally best performing content, like when we market ourselves, because we're a business, and when we market ourselves, is our behind the scenes.
Yeah. So
every month we do like a roundup, like of where we've been, who we've been with, whatever, and we try and tag people in, and we try and showcase the breadth of where we've gone and the cool stuff we've done. Right. the traction that gets us is massive, like often way more than like a finished thing.
Yeah.
Because people, I think, they're interested in understanding the nuts and bolts. They're interested in understanding the workings of it. When I talk to letting and estate agents, and I said to you this before off camera, I feel like as a profession they're massively undervalued. They're dealing with people who are at often very difficult and critical points of their lives, in their journey through the property market, what have you. And what's interesting is that it's very rare, even now in 2025, even now, for you to feel that empathy or that humanness on social channels and websites of estate and letting agents. They are still very, and it's not, they're not the only industry, right? It's just that we work quite a lot in it. It's the same in manufacturing engineering. It's the same in recruitment, in a lot of cases. Less so in things that are like finance, weirdly. They're actually better at this, about putting their people forward, because they understand that you need trust to give someone cash to invest, right? So you need to know the person. It's very much about the person. But where I see a lot of failure, failure. Yeah, a lot of failure is to understand that estate agency isn't about the what. It's not about what's being done, right? Because there's stacks of agents. The Voice of the Agent survey says there's like, on average, you've got 9 direct competitors, right? And everywhere. Some areas more, some areas less, right? But the direct, you've got this thing where people focus on what we do, i.e. we sell houses, we let houses. Cool. So does everyone else. So does everyone else on the same street that you occupy, because they all live together. It's weird, right?
Yeah.
On the same street, like Silver Street, Lincoln, 10 agents.
Yeah.
Bizarre, right? Like grouped together, like bunnies huddling. It's bizarre. So they do this thing, right? But they talk about the what, and they don't talk about the who or the how.
Yeah.
And that is the power. Who is doing it? How are they doing it? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think like, there's a couple of things you made me think of there. First of all, on the every town has that street of estate agents.
Yeah.
If I was launching an estate agent tomorrow, I'd be like, right, I'm going to go on the street away from everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I launched my business, there was lots of advice that I was given from people, and I wrote down everything they said, and I did the opposite. It's like what better way to stand out than do the opposite of what everyone else is saying? And then the other thing in terms of who, what, how, why, empathy is so important. I think you said that word, and just static images on a screen don't really portray that empathy. But I think having video is so important to that. And then just on the video side of things as well, I think we were saying this off camera, and I'm digressing, but I think a lot of people are nervous about going on camera because of the way they look or the way they sound. Guess what? When you're in someone's living room and you're totally comfortable pitching to them, that's exactly how you look and sound. But also the start, when you're not very good, actually is such a magical point. And what I mean by that is that you're probably going to be crap. So actually you've got so many outtakes.
Yeah.
As you get better over time, and correct me if I'm wrong, you guys are the experts, but there's going to be still going to be outtakes.
Oh yeah.
But there's going to be fewer outtakes than at the start. And actually at the start, use those terrible outtakes because you're not used to it.
Yeah.
And use that as your fuel and have loads of content from it.
I agree. I think what you've got at the moment is this interesting concoction of I don't want to say the dawn of AI, because we've been using AI for years and years.
Yeah.
Right, people think it's new. It's not new. Siri is AI.
Yeah.
CRM systems are AI. Google's AI. Right, it's a thing that's been happening. In the background for a long time. It's now a lot more present with things like ChatGPT and some of those other sort of language learning models and things like that. Right, we've got this interesting thing where actually a lot of research is being done right now, and actually young people don't trust AI, and they think it's cheap. They actually think that things like fake avatars and things like that are why are you cheapening your product? It's weird. It's an interesting thing. So there's an interesting juxtaposition, I think, between leveraging AI for business case and business use and standing away. But actually people want the human bit, right? And crucially, it's the only bit that other people can't do.
Yeah.
It's the only bit, right? We're a video business, right? We're a video business. There's other video businesses, right? Some better, some worse. Yeah. I think we're pretty good at what we do, right? But how we do it and us as human beings, and the empathy that we show, the care, the attention to detail, the customer relationships, all of that stuff, that's the power. That is the power. And when agents are talking about fee, and ostensibly they come back to, we need to try and increase our fee because I actually think the industry is undervalued. I think they don't get paid enough for what they do, and only if, with a fair wind, and if it does go through and if it all sells, maybe we'll get some cash at the end.
Yeah.
Bizarre. It's mad, right? It's a mad model, right? But I think what's mad about it, right, is that if they can express their quality as business people in a way that makes people have empathy and, trust in them and, like for them, actually fee becomes irrelevant. The last conversation I have with customers is fee.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
People, we go through the whole thing, so Chris, we want to do this, or Nick, we want to do this, or Matt, we want to do this, Toby, we want to do this. We've got an incredible team of people, right? And, all our guys are talking to customers and having a great time doing it. And they're like, we want to do this. This is what we want to get out of it. This is the stuff, right? This is the, the end of the, the end of the rub. And they go, oh, by the way, how much is it?
Yeah.
Not.
And they're invested at that point.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And I think it's the same deal. There's some great agents that we've worked with, some who we don't work with anymore, all around the country. And some of them, there's a guy, are genuinely thanked by people for turning out because they're like, oh, thank you so much. Like, I understand you're really busy. And they've already won the listing.
Yeah.
It could say it's 5%. It wouldn't, but it's bizarre. I just, and this is what I'm trying to get over with people a lot is, and what I want business people to, and I'm not saying get a professional cameraman to make it. I'm saying do it on your phone. Get the ROI for yourself.
Yeah.
You started doing it on your phone, right?
Yeah. Literally, just plonk my phone on the desk.
Yeah.
Hit record. I still do a lot of it now. Like you think, like sometimes you think, oh my God, I've worked really hard on that and I had something outsourced or whatever and the quality is really good, sound, visual, whatever. And then there's one where you've literally just hit record and you've got like your thumb over half a lens and that's performed really well. So I think for me, it's just being consistent with the content. I think consistency is a key point. And just on the theme of like podcasts, my podcast comes out twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays at 6 a.m. I've said this a few times recently in conversations where I would like to think that on a Monday, if it got to 10 o'clock and my podcast hadn't been released, someone would message me and go, are you alive?
Yeah.
Because they just know that consistency, he will show up. And I think the other thing with it as well, on like video being so important to get across what your values are, your brand, etc., and winning business. I think something we don't really realize as well is the power of actually recruiting future members of the team with that as well. So if you like see an estate agent that's stuck in the 1990s, you're like, oh, not really someone I want to work with. But if you see him doing video and they're all over social media and it looks like a fun environment, maybe that person is going to go onto that website and click the button about their, they're always on the lookout. They're always recruiting. So some of the best businesses I've worked with or gone and seen, they're always recruiting, like have a subs bench. So even if they don't have a position at that moment, they're putting content out that makes people think, I would like to work there.
I think that's really key. I think it also has, we work in recruitment. We do some work in recruitment. A lot of the work that some of they're doing recruiting for is succession planning.
Yeah.
And the one of the big firms we work with in recruitment, they're actually looking at that now. Their owner is aging out. He's getting to a point where he wants to dial down and retire, become a non-exec director probably, but do a lot less. And I think video content can go a long way. I'm working with a couple of agents now who are looking to exit, whatever. And they've asked me, weirdly, how can I do that with my visual content? Because obviously we're quite visible. And I've said, well, we need to start dialing you down, bringing more team in, diversifying your content, whatever, so you can sell your business as going concern, because that is a thing to consider. If you do become the face of your business and you're the only one, because I think there's a lot of, I don't know if you found this, but a lot of the objections to doing video content from an agency perspective are, well, I don't want someone to become famous and then leave me. And my attitude is, well, all the time they're becoming famous, they're making you money, one.
Yeah.
Also, if you don't want that to happen, get multiple people in your team doing it. Because otherwise you will get to this point where if you are the face of your business and you want to retire, leverage, sell, right, you've got a problem. You've got a concern. Now, people would say, well, what about you then, Chris? Like, what about you, Simon? Like, whatever. I'm in my 40s. Like, I'm not interested in leveraging out, for another 20 years, right?
Yeah.
If ever, I might just be on a board. Do you know what I mean? And never sell. Yeah, I don't know what the world's going to do and what industry's going to do, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's a funny sort of take.
I think you've maybe think of like the classic Richard Branson quote. What is it? Train them well enough that they can leave, treat them well enough they don't. And
correct, yeah.
That's so key in the estate agency industry. And you think of like at the moment the massive rise we've had in recent years of self-employed world.
It's loads now,
and actually a lot of traditional businesses could stop those valuers, managers, listers, whatever they're called, from leaving by helping them grow to a position where they can leave, but actually maybe giving them better pay, better working conditions, equity within that business.
Yes,
it's the key thing. I think that's what people are looking for.
Yeah,
and then they'll be there. But yeah, that whole thing of I don't want to make them famous and then they leave. But it's like, let's use football as an example, and Brighton and Hove Albion are a really good example of this. I've been fortunate enough to watch and hear Paul Barber, their CEO, speak in person. He was fantastic. Brighton go and find amazing players at cheap prices, build them up, sell them on for millions, and they go again. And they're totally cool with doing that.
Yeah.
And they've got a great business model within that football club at the moment.
Yeah.
And if they just went, but we don't want to like train them too well, because then they're going to get signed by Tottenham, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man U, Chelsea, whatever. That's just such a fixed mindset, and you're never going to achieve anything. They wouldn't have got into Europe. They probably would have been up and down, relegated, promoted from the Championship.
Don't talk to me about Tottenham this season. Don't talk to me about Tottenham this season. It's been absolutely awful. I love them, but wow, it's been bad.
Yeah.
What would your tips be? What would your top tips be for people, not just agents, but general business people, for getting started with video? What would your top 3 tips be?
Just getting started and being consistent is the first key one. I like what I think Angie Cooney had said on my podcast, is that get that one person within the business who's going to raise their hand and go, I'll do it. And then everyone else will go, oh, that looks a bit fun. It's pretty cool. They will then start doing it. So have like your advocate for it. And then I think actually, and it's a bit of a plug for like guys like yourself, but outsource sooner than you think you need to.
Well, I like that.
Yeah, of course you do. And I'll take my money later from that. But I think a lot of people look at me and think, he talks a lot about like data and print marketing. But if you I was asked this question recently, a training session, and it was, if you had £1,000 to spend on prospecting now, what would you do? And they would probably assume my answer is going to be, I'll just send out loads of letters. The first thing I asked was, how much would it cost to book a videographer for half a day? And they said, whatever it was. I went, okay, cool, half budget's going on that for whatever it is. And I was like, if I was launching my own estate agency tomorrow, with that videographer, half a day, right, these are all the places I want to go to. And let's just get some amazing content. And then I'd be walking up and down the high streets of the nice places where I live, just going up to people and going, what do you love about living in Newport Pagnell?
Yeah.
What amazing content that would be.
Yeah.
And then if they say, I love the Cannon pub, I'm then going to be, next bit is me having a pint in the Cannon, tagging them in it, and then all the local people are going to see it. So
it's stuff we've been saying for nearly a decade now, which sounds a bit mental, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We've been running for 8 years now. And it's stuff we have been saying, like, if you can leverage, and it sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? That you're making stuff that doesn't shout about what you do and how you do it and tell people you're brilliant and, your business, whatever. But if you can embed yourself into other stuff that isn't sales, and we were talking off camera earlier, it's a bit like, having your son or your daughter on your leg when you walk into a sweet shop and they're pulling at you going, can you buy this? 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 It's like, gets annoying, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right. And like, no, I'm not going to buy it. And that's what's happening. You go into these social channels, go into these websites, and all they're doing is buy this, buy this, buy this, buy this, buy this. And it's really irritating. Why don't we try and diversify? You mentioned Daniel Priestley earlier, and he's had a really interesting new sort of theory. I don't know whether it's his or whether it's from Google or whatever, because obviously, I don't know if it's an original thought by him, but he's changed the theory around, sales funnels, where you're sort of trying to funnel people into making a buying decision by, trying to influence them all the way down. He actually says now people have got wise to this sales funnel thing. And actually, he said you need to drop them into your space so that they can learn about you and your business and what you do and what you offer. And he described, I can't remember how he describes it, but I describe it like a playground. So I describe it, like a playground or a sandpit, right? We want to get thousands of people playing in our sandpit, right? We want to drop them in at the top by finding us on social media or finding us on, on our website or whatever, right? Or talking to someone and being recommended, whatever it might be, right? You want to get thousands and thousands of people dropping into our sandpit. And he describes it as like a figure of 8. So they go round and round and round and round and round, learning about you, getting to know you, like you, trust you, whatever, watching stuff, listening to stuff, seeing that people are having a great experience, and then bang, they buy something. That is the difference. That is the change. And I think content's allowing us to do it. It sort of feeds into Google 7-11-4. And having that volume of content that people can engage with before they make a buying decision. But I think it's strange that we think that just by literally shouting, I describe it almost a bit like shouting at a wall, like having your nose pressed up against a wall, and shouting, "Buy my stuff, buy my stuff," and eventually someone might walk behind you, and it might reverberate, and they might go, "Oh, I might buy something off him," whatever. Why not turn round and shout into an open chasm? Why not shout into a cave and let those echoes ripple out, let those echoes go, so that hundreds, thousands of people might hear you and talk and listen to and be interested in you and what you're doing? I feel like it is like shouting into a wall, or like shouting into a cave with echoes. And it's a really, I don't know whether that's mine or whether I've heard it somewhere, I've listened to it, I don't know, but I feel like that's my take on it.
The 7-11-4 thing, again, that Google theory, and Daniel Priestley talks about it a lot. I think, again, going back to the question you asked, for anyone watching this who hasn't got video content yet, make sure that you've got 7 hours of binge-worthy content online immediately. So if someone goes to the big 5, so Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube is what I'd consider the big 5. Have you got 7 hours of binge-worthy content across those platforms? And then also making sure you're in that 1% who's a content creator, because the 1% in the creation game are making money off the 99% who are consumers. And I saw a stat the other day that reminded me, I think it's like 1% of the billion users, is it, that are on LinkedIn are producing content on a weekly basis. Like that is mad. All you need to do is produce weekly content to be in the top 1% users on LinkedIn. And I have that myself, is that I do consume a lot of content from an educational point of view and some entertainment, but I make sure that every week it's like, am I that creator rather than consumer? Because that's what's going to get you notice and then trust on that.
But the key bit is that, so people always talk about know, like, and trust. They talk about that all the time. There's people, we people need to know you, like, trust you. Cool. How are you going to get them to know you in the first place? That's the key bit. There's the bit underneath, the knowing bit. So this little pyramid, this little triangle of know, like, and trust, great. But how are they going to get to know you in the first place? And people view video content and visuals as something that is not advertising. It's advertising. We're telling people, hi, I'm Chris. We make great video. Hi, I'm Simon. I can help you grow your business. We're telling people, but we're not saying like the child in the sweet shop, buy. We're just saying, look, go and do this. And I always say, go and do it yourself. Like, I'm a huge advocate. Go and do it yourself. Use your phone. See the power of it. And then call me when you need something great. That's why I say, like, it's not a sales pitch. It's a genuinely go exactly as you've said. Try it. See if there's a return on your investment of time. Right? See if there's a return on investment of your time, and then go, oh, do you know what? This is working for me, this, and then invest. Right?
Just on the video thing as well, there, actually, just so it'd be remiss of me not to quote some stats, and particularly when it comes to video. So according to Rightmove, listings with a video tool get 8% more detail views and 6% more inquiries.
I love that.
So if I was targeting properties that are on the market for someone else and don't have video, which is about 2/3 of listings, I'd be saying, did you know you could get 8% more detail views and 6% more inquiries by having a video? Scan this QR code to see an example of what we do for our sellers to get them more attention, more eyeballs, whatever. And on the video side of things, if you went back, what would I say, half a dozen years ago, 10 years ago, if you'd said to me about having video on a listing, I would have been like, you're absolutely mad, because I want to leave something to the imagination, because I want the person to inquire and view it. I feel like the world we're in today, people want to see everything up front. So it's like, put everything out there, show it in all its glory, let them make the decision and then come forward. And there are plenty of estate agents. We could reel off loads of names. One particular one that comes to mind, who's a very good friend of mine and client, is one called Tanya Baker, who does unbelievable content, and she sells 30 to 40% of her listings on Instagram and TikTok, which is just insane.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, anyone like listening or watching this, go check out Tanya if you've not seen her. But that's just, again, a very good example of how powerful video is and how she's grown her personal brand.
Yeah, I think people worry about, I agree with you, about video tours of property. I think people worry about doing it and not encouraging people to come and see. I think there's a balance to be struck. And I always say to my customers, my friends, agents, across the country, when they ask me that question, I'm like, look, don't show everything in the kitchen sink.
Yeah.
Don't show the downstairs loo and the boiler. And I know agents do that. They do like a full walk around, they show the boiler and they show the downstairs toilet, whatever. I say, like, treat it like a 1995, like it's 1995, right? And you're producing the sales particulars for your property.
Yeah.
And you're going to put your key photos and your sales particulars and print them, right? Video those spaces, right? Video those spaces to a high standard, showcase the 1995 version in 2025, but use video instead of stills, right? Leave the downstairs loo, the boiler, the understairs cupboard, some of the storage for the imagination to encourage people to come and view, but give them enough to make them want to. And that's where I think there's a fine line between like doing too much, because what we want to do, the power in agency is the agent.
Yeah.
The reason is the who. It goes back to the who, right? There might be some negatives in a property, but if you can accentuate the positives, minimize the negatives, then the people that come through the door might think, do you know what? Okay, yeah, whatever. But if they saw it on a picture, they might go, oh no, there's a problem there.
Yeah.
If you could say, you get the agents in the room and the agent goes, oh, well, the seller knows there's a problem there and they're comfortable fixing it. That's whatever. And you've overcome that objection. And business, a lot for me, I've found over the last 2-3 years, most of the time it's just overcoming objection.
Yeah.
That's all it is before people make a buying decision. They've already resolved to buy something. They've already resolved to buy a house, buy a car, you can do some video content, use a consultant.
Yeah.
But you just need to remove the doubt.
Yeah.
Remove the doubt. And I think by telling a story and getting them in front of you, you can remove the doubt.
So there's 3 things you've made me think of there in what you're saying. I'm going to have to try and remember them.
Sure.
Go along here.
Go for it.
In terms of objection handling, I was fortunate enough to go watch Jordan Belfort from Wolf of Wall Street speak live at Wembley.
Yeah, he's amazing, also dangerous.
Yeah, very dangerous. I think he's a lot less dangerous than what he was 20, 30, 40 years ago. But he said that when he first started Stratton Oakmont, and they're obviously trying to sell stocks and shares, whatever, he kept getting what's the word I'm looking for? He was getting his sales team say, oh yeah, but there's so many objections out there, Jordan, like we can't sell this stuff. Like there's hundreds and hundreds of objections. And he got the whiteboard out one day and went, right, what are all these objections? And what was perceived as hundreds was like 9, I think he said.
Yeah.
So it's like, so if we can get an answer to these objections, these 9, if I can get you a script, we're onto a winner. And they basically would chase the objection. Because they're like, we know how to handle these 9 objections. They would chase those. So that was one thing that came to mind. The other thing was in terms of, and I should have mentioned earlier in a question you asked, but the power of the person. So sometimes when I would go in the living room and I'm pitching against 2 other agents and you say, why should I be going with XYZ estate agents? And not in an arrogant way, but very confidently go, that's why. If you go with them, sure, they're going to put it on Rightmove. Sure, they're going to have photos. Yeah, they can do a video. Yeah, they can be open 7 days a week. You do not get me with that estate agent. So, like, if you believe that I'm the one who's most likely to get you sold and get you the best price and go to war for you, I'm the right person. Really interesting article from Zoopla last year where they had used some form of technology, I don't know if you saw it, to observe people's eye movement on viewings. And they basically found from, I think, thousands of viewings, but where people were looking on viewings was at pictures, furnishings, and furniture. See, like these things which are not going to be in the property when you buy them are what people's eyes are focused on. Yet when I was an agent, you were told in the description, make sure you mention low-level WC, UPVC windows, plugs here, plugs there.
Yeah.
No one cares. They're not looking at the coving. They're not looking at the potential damp problems. They're looking at all this furniture. So if you can home stage a property, and then video that lifestyle, like I think as something which, and again, I'm speaking to the expert here, but I can't believe it hasn't happened yet. Maybe at the odd occasion it has, but it should be happening, is more sellers being in the videos. So where it's like the seller there with their family, or they're throwing the ball with the dog in the garden, or the kids going down the slide, like not actors, actual people who've lived there, and saying to them, you know, what are you going to miss most about this property when you leave it? I think that's going to be the next thing on from the presenter-led videos.
I agree. I sold last year. I bought and sold last year. And we made the conscious decision as sellers. I mean, obviously we did all the marketing, of course, but we made the conscious decision for my wife to do all the viewings, because who better to talk about the area, the property, how long they've lived there, what they've done in the property, the changes they've made to it, how you've accentuated the asset, how you've added stuff, you know, show it round, than someone who's proud of their home.
Yeah.
Who better to do that, right? And yes, you know, it's not always convenient, you know, for people to do that because they're at work or whatever. But at least put a bit of like love. Like one of the most powerful things, and you said this to me earlier, and it was a really lovely compliment, and I love you for it, is we were talking about my love of Wrexham Football Club. And I know I'm wearing a Tottenham shirt. I love it, right? But we were talking about the power of a story. And you were saying, so why do you follow Wrexham? And I told you all the reasons. And you said, oh, is it because of Rob and Ryan Reynolds? You know, I'm like, no, it was before that. It's the community, it's the power. And you said, oh, you're a really great storyteller. You said, I wouldn't have thought about that football club in that way. But because I'm passionate about it, because I love the story and love the journey, and I'm an advocate of the power that sport can have in community.
Yeah.
What is the same deal? If someone has that passion and that love, like when we were selling our house, I was pressing for the move. My wife was less bothered. You know, she'd been there for a very long time. She'd bought the house. I'd moved in, you know, when I moved out of my property, you know, and she loved it, you know, and there was a lot of emotion, and she was really sad on moving day. She cried, you know, because she loved the house and she loved the memories, you know, but what she was able to talk about with the sellers, also with the buyers as a seller, was the memories they'd made. Oh, yeah, well, this was a perfect baby's room, and the lady who actually bought our house was pregnant. And you said, well, we actually had this room as a nursery, and we had a cot here and that there. And she could tell the story and visualize the rooms. I love that. I think that would be super powerful and something that isn't seen. I think it's something that just isn't seen often. It's a great idea. I might have it.
There you go.
I might have it. In fact. A couple of fun ones to end.
Yeah.
Right, just because I like to ask everybody. Do you have a favourite movie?
I've kind of already quoted it, Wolf of Wall Street.
Wolf of Wall Street is your favourite. I mean, I have seen it a lot.
I've seen it a lot.
I've watched it probably 10 times or more.
Can I give another answer outside of Wolf of Wall Street?
Yeah, do it, yeah.
I'd probably say Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah. Do you know what? That is probably the most popular answer.
Is it?
Yeah, I think the power of story. It's a long movie, you know, and not a huge amount happens.
No.
And a lot of it is quite run-of-the-mill.
Yeah.
You know, prison life, you know, whatever. But the power of the story, right, is so compelling that even, I can't remember when that film was made, but in the
early 90s.
In the 90s, right? Almost 30 years later, it's still most people's top answer.
Yeah.
And that's the power of story, right?
Yeah.
So, do you have a series you're watching at the minute? Anything great? I've got a new one that I haven't said on the podcast before, so I'm going to give that one. But
so I'll say, at the time of recording, a series that is about to come out is Series 3 of Gangs of London.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Gangs of London.
Yeah.
There's another one which I'm looking forward to watching with Ashley Walters from Top Boy and the Scouse actor. Is it Stephen Graham?
Graham, yeah.
And that I'm really looking forward to that coming out. That is the 4-episode series.
Is it boxing on Disney?
No, it's not boxing. The guy, I think it's Stephen Graham's son, gets accused of murder.
Oh yes.
I don't know how that ends. I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah.
But they filmed the 4 episodes in one go.
Yeah, it's single shot.
Just single shot.
So, yeah.
I'm really intrigued to watch that. But in terms of a series I've watched before, one of the best Netflix series I've ever seen, Queen of the South. unbelievable series, one of the best series I've watched.
The I Love Silo. I've said it on the podcast before. It's amazing on Apple TV. I've just, my wife and I've just finished Paradise on Disney.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to tell people what it's about because I don't want to ruin it. It's so good. Like, it's so good. I can't even tell you. I did not expect it to go where it went. It's amazing. And it's eight episodes. It's great. Which is great. But a series that ended perfectly for me is a series called Ted Lasso. And the loads of people will see, and some people won't. Obviously, football related.
Yeah.
But it's on Apple TV, and it had a perfect story arc for every character. It was written as 3 seasons. It's perfect. They're talking about making a 4th season. I don't know why. I don't know how they're going to do it. I think it will probably ruin it. But Ted Lasso is amazing. But that is an example of a perfect story arc.
Yeah.
Every character goes through an incredible hero's journey. The ending's perfect. It's everything's tied up neatly in a little bow. It's a bit like, I guess, what did that really well? Friends, that tied up in a little bow. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Things that naturally come to an end. Don't need to be messed with.
That storytelling thing that we've touched on a lot. Again, going back to getting sellers involved in the video. There is a brilliant, and if anyone watching or listening to this hasn't seen it and wants me to send them a link to it, there's an unbelievable Ryan Serhant video.
A huge fan.
For him promoting, it's a few years old now, promoting a new listing. And without ruining the whole thing, he basically is walking through Central Park and a letter falls on the floor. And he picks it up and he goes, "Excuse me, you dropped something." And then he starts reading it and he goes, "Dearest Ryan." It's basically telling the story of what someone is looking for. And as he's telling the story, it's then going from Central Park into the property. Ryan Serhant's walking around. And again, people should watch it to get the end part of it. But it's just genius marketing, brilliant use of video. And again, Tanya Baker's been doing a bit of that recently where she'll be reading a text outside a house. And it's like, "Hey, Tanya, we're looking for a 4-bed property with close proximity to a train station. Have you got anything?" And it pans to the house and it's this could be perfect for you.
No, I love that. Simon, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for being so kind to me on your podcast and our little business. I wish you huge success and hopefully we'll see each other again soon.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it, mate.